Hey everybody, it's Mark, and I'm back again with another amazing episode of Finding Your Summit. And this week on the pod is Rebecca Rusch. Rebecca is a 3-decade athlete, professional athlete who's done so much with her life. She's an author, Rush to Glory. She has a movie that came out a couple years ago called Blood Road. It documents her trying to retrace her steps on the Ho Chi Mihn Trail, trying to find her dad who was shot down in a aircraft. And so very emotional story. It really is amazing. And she is a 4-time winner of the Leadville 100. I've seen the race. It's crazy. It's in Colorado. And it's just, her life of accomplishment is really amazing. So check that out. And as always, if you want to find out anything going on with me, you can do that at www.markpattersonnfl.com. And I've got Vincent coming up right around the corner, and I'm off to Antarctica. That's going to be incredible. I've got an e-learning course coming out. Check that out on my website, as well as tracking me on my journey down in Antarctica. Again, you can do that at my website, markpattersonnfl.com. And as always, this episode is brought to you by VelatorBlueSkincare.com. All organic and original ingredients. They're not original, but they're all organic. They're great for your skin. Okay, so check that out, and let's go listen to Rebecca. Here we go. Hey, it's Mark, and I'm back again with another amazing episode of Finding Your Summit. And today I am broadcasting from our World HQ here in Sun Valley, Idaho, and I've got the privilege of interviewing Rebecca Rusch. She is the Queen of Pain. Rebecca, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me over to your house, World Headquarters.
Well, it's the World HQ when we're broadcasting, right?
It's awesome.
I was thinking about, I've known about you for a while, and as we were talking about just before we went live here, I actually indirectly met you probably a year and a half ago out in Santa Monica, and you were just launching this movie, Blood Road. And I was there by myself. It was packed, and it was just incredible. And so, but what I wanted to do is kind of give this setup and then end kind of with the movie, how that came about. And the reason why I want to do that is because you are so fascinating. You've been a professional athlete for now 3 decades. You've got just a world of accomplishment, and I want to talk about those.
Thank you.
And they're not just like normal, I know I did a cool thing playing in the NFL, and that's cool, but what you've done, it is extreme, and so I want to ask you about some of these different things. So let's start off in terms of a lot of these accomplishments center around the mountain bike, correct?
They do since age 35. So I've the bike is my current sort of iteration of the sports, but it started with running in high school, rock climbing, paddling, adventure racing, and so the newest version is the bike. But now that is my main tool for competing and expeditions. But I live here. I ski. I run.
You do all that stuff.
Do a lot of other stuff.
Well, I do all those things too. So, a common thread that I want to talk to you about. So the other night at the local Magic Lantern Theater, I saw this free solo movie, and it was just amazing, right? And it was it's about the story of this kid who free solos up El Cap. Yeah. And I believe you were the first woman to actually scale that mountain.
A certain
right?
route, yeah. Not the first woman to climb El Cap. No,
okay.
Definitely not. But the first woman to climb Lurking Fear, which is a route. There's all different routes on El Cap. As you know, you're a climber.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was doing big wall climbing for a while in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And, those are like vertical expeditions, basically. But I always used a rope. Unlike Alex.
Well, Alex, he's just off on his own corner, right? One miss and it's over.
Yeah.
And so, even though I knew the outcome, kind of like the movie Rocky, where you knew who's going to win, but it was, you're still in the movie. Watching Alex scale up this thing, and there's this one, point where he's got to make this like crossover karate kick thing, and, in all of his practices up until that time, he had missed. And so, fortunately, the time that he went for it, he actually made it. But was that terrifying? I mean, I've climbed Half Dome twice now, and just going up that final rock face is I think for some would be terrifying. I've been with others who are crying and bawling, just looking at that thing. And El Cap is a whole different level.
Well, my hands are sweating actually as we're talking about it, this instant physical reaction. And yeah, climbing is really primal, even with the rope and the equipment. And that, or you practice so that the equipment's going to catch you, but it is still this primal thing. I think it's like being in water or being off the ground. Those are things that a type of fear or reaction that really is in your body that you can't control necessarily. And people say, oh, you conquered fear. I don't think that exists. Everybody feels fear. It's more, how is your reaction to it? Are you going to freak out on the climb and start bumbling and mess up? Or are you able to harness that emotion and still focus and go forward? But yeah, El Cap is an incredible experience. I mean, the way that I was climbing it, big wall style, you're sleeping on a portaledge. You're up off the ground for 3 days, and everything you have is with you. You're pulling it up the wall with you. Alex went in a lot lighter style, but it's incredible to be off the ground like that and totally 100% focused in where you are. And the time I was doing big wall climbing, there weren't really cell phones, so you are disconnected, checked out, only focusing on what you're doing. And I think we miss that in our worlds right now. And it's what I love about riding in Idaho and a lot of the experiences I do. I go out of cell phone range, and I actually really need and enjoy that for my own mental health.
Yeah, disconnect.
And I do kind of recommend it. I mean, the race that we have here that I put on, Rebecca's Private Idaho, I love that we go out of cell phone range and people can take pictures, but they can't be on their Instagram. They've got to just ride their bike and focus on the thing they're doing. And that is what climbing really was for me. It was such this intense focus of the rock that's right in front of your face and your fingernails holding on. And it really is one of my first loves as a sport, because it's physical, but it's also very cerebral, and you really have to think and calculate, and I miss it.
Yeah, well, you'll appreciate this. I recently interviewed a guy named Stephen Wampler, and I don't know if you know his story, but I was doing my work, and this thing flashed across my Facebook, and it was a quick clip of him in his journey. And essentially, this guy's got this awful disease, and so he decided to take this on. He can't walk, he's in a wheelchair, all these things, and so he actually climbed El Cap, and they invented like this lounge chair looking thing, and essentially did pull-ups through this contraption that just hoisted him all the way to the top.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, just like, wow. So great appreciation for anybody, no matter who it is, just to get up the rope or certainly unroped, to make that happen.
Yeah, we're lucky to have full mobility, and and I know if I was in a situation like that, and I think you're the same kind of person, we would still want to find a way to get out and be in nature and be outside, even with limitations like that.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. So since you mentioned it, I'm going to go there. So you talked about your Rebecca's Private Idaho.
Yeah.
I'm here in...
Can I challenge you to a bike race?
Listen,
Labor Day weekend?
Listen, you're the queen of pain, and I don't know if I'm the king or not, but I'm always up for a challenge, right?
Awesome.
And so a lot of people have talked to me about, or talked to others, like, hey, what would your friends think about some of the things you're doing? And they would say, hey, it's right in character.
Yeah.
And, I was up in the mountains yesterday with a guy named Mike Hatrip here, local
I know
skier.
Mike.
You know Mike? Yeah.
He's a legend.
Yeah. So Had and I were climbing during the thick of that storm yesterday,
Yeah.
just having a blast,
Nice.
Yeah, it was just awesome, the way it should be.
Yeah.
Right. So where do you guys actually take that? How long is that ride?
So it's evolved. This is year number 6, and there is a 100-mile version, a 50-mile, newly added this year, a 20-mile tater tot,
Yeah.
and also a 4-day stage race. So people can either do 4 days of riding or 100-mile, 50, 20, and we take the main route goes over Trail Creek Summit into Copper Basin. And in that area and then back. And it feels like the Wild West. You go over that hill over Trail Creek, and it's the same as it was 100 years ago when the wagons came over there. And my whole point of launching Private Idaho was, one, everywhere I travel, people are like, Ida what? Iowa? Where do you live? And I really wanted to show people how special this place is. And so it's it's a celebration of where I live in my hometown, but it's also a way to support my community and to bring people here, and it's a fundraising ride. So there was really, to celebrate what's special here. Nobody comes to Idaho once. They come here and they're like, what? It's amazing. I mean, you had the same experience.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to be able to use my reach as a cyclist to invite people here and bring them here and show them around. And I really do believe, we're a recreation economy here now, and that, bike is like the new golf. Everybody's doing it. Everybody loves it. Every age, every ability level can ride a bike. And that's really what I love about that event. It's why I hosted it. And now it was 1,100 people last year. So it's taking off. It's super exciting.
Yeah, congratulations to that. So is that
you can ride the 100-miler or the stage race? Those will be.
You just challenged me.
Yeah.
Okay. So question though is that, are you on the mountain bike? And let me finish my question.
Yeah.
So is it on a mountain bike and a road bike? And the reason why I ask you that is because as you go over that pass, of course, you go into the gravel, right? As you come out the other side. So.
Yeah. So it's a gravel ride. I mean,
So you need a thicker tire.
Yeah, and the thing I love about gravel bikes, and I'm a mountain biker at heart, and people are like, why didn't you host a mountain bike event? And the reason I hosted a gravel event is, one, more people can come. It's more accessible. I can fit more people out on a dirt road than I can on a single track mountain bike trail. And some people are intimidated by that. And it also it's this great equalizer of, it can bring the roadies in, it can bring the mountain bikers in, kind of onto this middle playing ground. And so everyone who's riding it is riding what is now a new form of bicycle, is a gravel bike, which is basically a road bike that has wider tires, a little bit slacker geometry, and if you live in Idaho, we have more gravel than pavement, and so it just made sense to do a gravel road ride. We did have one road racer, Josh Berry, who is a local, who his first year he rode it on his road bike because he didn't have a gravel bike, and he swore he'd never do it again. He won the race and set the record, but he's like, it was just too harsh of a ride, so you want something that's a little softer. And some people ride mountain bikes, some people ride fat bikes, and I kind of like ride whatever you have.
Yeah, it's this summer. Another one of my goals is to not only climb the 7 summits, but also to climb the highest peak in every state. Right. So
you've got to go do Bora.
I've done Bora.
Okay.
So this is where this
leads. You can ride your bike to Bora, climb it right back.
I can, but I drove there this summer. I got up at 4:00 in the morning. It was pitch black,
Nice.
and I was going over the hill.
Yeah.
I came within a half an inch of getting blasted by a big moose. I mean,
wow.
yeah, because it just, as you said, it's
Yeah.
like the Wild West.
Yeah.
It's just a kind of marshy, it's perfect environment for those types of animals out there. It's just like, holy smokes. And you couldn't see when you're going out because obviously it's pitch black. Coming back after we had summited, it was, 4 or 5 o'clock, and it was in the summer, so it was light. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's beautiful out here.
That view coming back over that hill into town, and you see Sun Valley, and you see, that big meadow is stunning. I love it.
Incredible. So I want to stay in this bike theme
Okay.
for a while here. So about, I don't know, I was living back in California at the time, and maybe this is, I'm probably going to be off a year or two, but we'll call it 5 years ago. And there was this amazing movie, and I biked a lot, mountain biked up in the Santa Monica Mountains. And so these guys, Michael Huntsman, if you're listening, said, hey, we got to go to this Lance Armstrong movie about Leadville, right? And so I'm like, what the hell is Leadville? So I go and we watch this thing, and afterwards it was just fascinating. So for those of you who don't know, Leadville is a town in the middle of Colorado someplace at 10,000 feet. And there's this 100-mile Leadville 100, and it's this insane race that you go out 50 miles the one way and you come back, but there's some really steep stuff you got to go around and up, and then you got to repeat it coming back, and you are the 4-time champion.
That's right.
I mean, how do you do that? It's just I mean, that is the Queen of Pain, and actually I want to ask you about that. But I also want to get into, how did you get the nickname, and who gave you the nickname of the Queen of Pain?
Do you have any nicknames?
Martha Shark? I don't know.
So
No.
nobody you don't choose your own nickname. People give you your nicknames. So that one, Queen of Pain, was actually from when I was adventure racing, doing Eco Challenge. I don't know if you remember those.
Sure.
I did that for 10 years. And sort of during that stint, I was the captain of my team. And just was given the nickname it was a magazine, adventure racing magazine, that's no longer in print, but that was the cover, was Queen of Pain, Rebecca Rusch, and it just kind of stuck, and people just grabbed onto it, and it stayed with me. And I think of it more as Queen of Perseverance. It's not that I seek out pain or I like pain or like, I want to feel pain. It's more that I do believe with ultra endurance events, and I think it's why I go there, is that pain is a teacher, and really where you are on the other side of something like Leadville Trail 100 that is extremely painful, extremely hard, physically painful, emotionally, for me, I'm a better person on the other side of that. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure you can understand that as being a mountaineer now, you understand that kind of mindset of like, yeah, it hurts, but there is a prize at the end of it.
Yeah, and also I think it's, and I say this a lot of times to people on the mountain when it gets really cold and it's awful and you've been going for a while, pain is temporary, right? And like you said, it builds character, and especially when you're going through different things in your life. I was just having this conversation the other day, and I personally don't feel like you can go through things in life without having that physical condition of pushing yourself to the limits, of all the benefits that you get. And again, pain is temporary. Things are temporary. Things do pass. And it helps your mind and your body and your soul, everything else, really condition to take on things that come and hit you in life. And then as you're going through, all these little things happen in the race that you're talking about on the mountain or on the football field or going through 2 days or whatever, that I just don't know if I can get through it. And actually you do. And you get to the other side, and then you show yourself like, wow, I actually took this on and I overcame that fear or that thing that was holding you back, and that's where the magic really kicks in.
When you tell your stories of whatever, adventure you were on, you always, retell the really hard parts.
Yeah.
Those are always like the ones that you want to talk about again because you're proud that you got through them. My coach, Dean Golick, he actually sent me a paper on a study that shows that adversity breeds champions. And it was, a scientific paper just showing that if people have gone through some tough, hard knocks, that it actually makes them more resilient and in turn more of a winner. By having the losses, eventually that's the lesson that you need to win.
Well, you see that I saw that today actually on, we're sitting here in the Michigan-Ohio State game. And so there's all this previews. And they're talking.
Are we talking football here?
No, we're just talking about metaphorically
No, I meant that
speaking.
That was what was on
that
today?
was going
Okay.
on. Yeah, and I didn't watch the game at all, but it was just kind of before it was going out the door, and the whole point of that, it builds character, and certainly when you're angry or if you have fear or your revenge, whatever word you want to use, it's a great motivator per what you just were talking about. Of getting you to that end goal, of keeping you focused, of zeroed in on what the actual prize is going to be. So,
well, that's why I think sports are so great, because nobody wants to say, "Oh, I want to have adversity in my life to become a tougher person." But sports are like this, compartmentalized version of, yes, you can have adversity and pain and challenge in a sport without, wrecking your life, so to speak, or having to go through personal challenges, which everyone's going to go through anyway. But I think sport is such a great lesson for that. And I'm so thankful that in high school I found running, and, it really has shaped me as a human.
So with all these great accomplishments that you've had, what would you say has been your greatest challenge? Again, you said it perfectly, which is we all go through adversity. I've had plenty of mine.
That's a really good question, because there's a roller coaster ride. Probably the biggest challenge has been trying to scratch and eke out a career doing this. I could have chosen something else with my, I have a business marketing degree. I could have done something else that would have been an easier road for sure. I could have chosen a sport that was perhaps an Olympic sport, or a sport that, made more money, like football. Yeah. And so I think the biggest challenge really has been staying true to that I wanted to do these adventure sports, and my soul was pulled towards them, but finding a way to make it work. And it's really just in the last 5 years that there's, a little bit of pressure taken off. My business has been evolving to have more things like the events that I put on, a foundation that I just started. But it's really only in the last 5 years that it hasn't felt like each year I'm kind of like, well, am I going to have a job, next year? And especially the sponsorship model, you can win a world championship, you can win Leadville, you can win this, that, and still get cut. And so that has been a challenge of especially, owning a house or having responsibilities like that of like, am I going to be able to make it?
Yeah.
And so that has been the hardest part, but it's also something that, people will ask kind of the flip side of that question. What's your biggest achievement or something you're most proud of? And really it's longevity, and that I've been able to stay in it for 3 decades as an athlete and evolve and morph and keep doing things that I really love to do.
Well, I think that always also goes back to that word called conviction. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to be very convicted in your belief of where you're trying to go and what the ultimate prize, again, is going to be. And, going back to, you got a degree in something else and to go off. And I think, and my daughter's going through this right now. She graduated from USC. And she wants to kind of follow more of an independent path of going out and working with different production companies. And so slowly she's working with L'Oreal and Nike and Asics and some other people, which is awesome. And she gets frustrated because it's not coming fast enough. I'm like, you're only 22.
Yeah.
And this is what you want to do. I will not let you go just take the corporate job at Microsoft. That's easy, right? I mean, you have to work for it. But it's just like, if this is what you feel that you're meant to do, stay on that path, right? And that's what's about. This podcast is called Finding Your Summit, right? And I think part of that is like that search, but also once you feel like you find that purpose in life that you're meant to do, is stay in the course and make sure you get to that side no matter what, and things come up and you have self-doubt and all the other natural fears and questions that come up. It's because you're human. But at the end of the day, you got to keep going back. And one of the things I do, you can see this over my fridge, and that is, and I also have it written upstairs in my bathroom, and that is a vision board, right? Mm-hmm. And those are the things that I'm trying to accomplish. So every single time that I go and I have self-doubt, I open up the refrigerator because I'm hungry. I shut, there I am again. I'm on a mountain, right? I have some of the things, artifacts around, like reminding me of the past to know where I want to go in the future. Mm-hmm. And that just really helps me stay on course of what that path is going to be. So anyways, I totally get.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it's just all part of it. And everybody's got their own, you don't have to go through something severe to get there, but everybody has to be motivated by something, right? To really have that drive. And certainly you are. This podcast is brought to you by Laird Superfoods. Let me tell you, these creamers are so amazing. They're super tasty, super delicious. And what they are is whole, natural food ingredients mixed into these creamers. And I'm telling you, when you put this stuff into your drink, this powder substance, it is amazing. And their whole tagline is all about fueling your journey. You cannot go and actually power your way up a mountain, be in the pool, ride a big wave, unless you're properly fueled. And these guys are doing it all the right way. So where can you find this? At lairdsuperfood.com. And here's the kicker. If you use the code name MarkP20, that's MarkP20, you're going to get 20% off on your first order. So check it out, lairdsuperfood.com. You don't have to go through something severe to get there, but everybody has to be motivated by something, right? To really have that drive. And certainly you are.
I think especially if you have a job that is untraditional, and I'm not going to an office per se, or you're not going to an office for the 7 summits, and you don't have a boss over your head saying, well, this project is due at this date. And so being self-managed like that takes a lot of discipline, and it takes tools like a vision board or leaning on your friends or, having a coach or something like that, so that people do help you stay on track, because I think it's really hard to do that alone. I actually think it's impossible. I know for me it's impossible. And the times where I've sort of been in some of those troughs and valleys are, when I have lost sight of a vision, and it usually is somebody else, whether it's my husband or my friends or my dog, that kind of help pull me out. But I'm usually not able to do it by myself without some some tools or crutches or whatever you want to call them. for
Yeah,
support.
well, for me, it's been coaches, right?
Yeah.
Or mentors, whatever you want to call that, right? To help you keep on track. But my senses about you is that you love the process. I mean, once you get, you're focused and you know what your next challenge is going to be, you're driven in a way that you love the process. I just personally, I love the process of training for training camp, even though I didn't love training camp, right? And I love the process of preparing for these mountains, like we talked about earlier with Hat Trip yesterday. And that's the fun part. And a lot of people who don't succeed, don't get there, don't love that training part, the process to get to the end, to just the the base of the summit or the prize fight or Leadville or whatever. I mean, you can't just show up, right?
No, you can't just show up. There's some preparation that happens beforehand, some blood and tears and pain that happen before Leadville.
For sure. So another amazing accomplishment that you did, and I've done this mountain twice, and like I was reading this, and I'm like, this is impossible. I mean, literally, this is impossible. I don't think it's possible, so I'm going to challenge you on this. And that is riding up to the top of Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible.
Well, it is.
So
It was so fun. It was amazing.
It's possible for sure to get up right up until like 15,000 feet or so for me.
Yeah.
And I'm having a hardest time understanding because of the scree.
Yeah. So
right?
I put the last day, it's almost all rideable, which is really cool. Up the certain route that we
Right.
did. We did the easiest route up. I forget the name of it.
I think there's 7 routes.
Yeah, and it was the easiest, most mellow. So it was rideable. 9/10 of it was rideable. On the last day, the summit day, there is that big giant scree slope.
Yeah.
And that was I rigged a system to put my bike on my back, hiked up with it, and then put the wheels back on and rode that summit ridge and rode
cool.
to the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one section isn't rideable, but you can carry your bike. And what's cool about, you're required to have porters there. It's part of the infrastructure. And my porters kept being like, Rebecca, let me carry your bike. I'm like, no, like I just personally wanted to do it, and they couldn't understand. I'm like, I'll still pay you the same amount, but you're going to have an easy job with me because I want to carry my stuff.
Yeah.
And so my teammate Patrick and I, we carried most of our stuff and definitely the bike. And then once I got to the top, our guide, Respicious, he's like, okay, Rebecca, you've done it now. Let us help you get your bike down this hard. I know, I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. You don't understand me.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had to carry it for a little bit, but 9/10 of it's rideable, and the down was amazing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Because I had to walk. I've hiked out
so fun.
twice now. It's a long ways to get out of there.
It's a long way, and all the hikers on the way up are like, "You're taking your bike up there," and then on the way down, we're like, "See ya."
Yeah. So how long was your total trip then?
It was 6 days, and really because we took our time going up, as you know,
acclimate.
and took it to acclimatize, and it could have been done faster, but that wasn't the point. The point was to get up there healthy, and as you know, you've got to acclimatize and deal with that. But down was like, whew, super fast.
Yeah, I was up there. I think I was on the mountain a year and a half ago with a group called Water Boys, and this is something Chris Long, started with Nate Boyer, and so we were up there, and gosh, I think there was like 6 or 7 ex-NFL guys. Jim Mora, who just also he was a buddy of mine. He just bought a place here in Sun Valley, and I mean, gosh, it just fell apart on the top. Just guys were falling over. Dallas Cowboy got blind in one eye, and Chris Long was delirious when another guy laid down, and we had to give him oxygen. I mean, it was a mess.
Altitude is not, doesn't discriminate, and it's not your fitness level.
Yeah.
It affects everyone differently, which is why we took our time going up, because it was really important. I really wanted to get to the summit. It was one of my first trips that I did as a fundraising trip for World Bicycle Relief, and so we were raising money to provide bikes for schoolgirls in Africa. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't want to, and we were going to go visit a village and give them the bikes afterwards. And so I didn't want to not get to the top of the summit. And actually they were motivating me. I'd never even met these people, but I was like, I need to get to the top for them. And,
I love that.
It was really amazing. So we got to the summit, got to go down and then actually visit some villages and gift the bikes and ride with them. And it was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's
and
incredible.
It's not a recreational bike. It's actually a tool for them to get to school and to carry water and, kind of really make their lives easier. So
Well,
that was the focus of that trip. It had two summits for me and two really special goals.
yeah, and that was my second time up there, and our you know, it was great to be climbing with the Green Beret guys and also some of these former NFL players. But you know, the purpose was to raise a bunch of money to build water wells for the people of the Maasai
That's
tribe.
great.
Yeah, it was great, and we actually, Jim Moore and I actually raised enough to fund our own well. Nobody else did that.
Nice.
And so, anyways, we're proud of that fact. And, you know, I think they've got like 86 wells now, and we're like number 24 or something. So it was pretty cool. So I want to shift a little bit. And you were born in Puerto Rico.
I was.
And I want to ask about your relationship with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you are Air Force brat. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I guess that's a term. And now Gold Star family, because my dad was in the Air Force, a navigator, and didn't come home from the Vietnam War. And I was 3 when he was shot down. My sister was 5. So my relationship with him, I don't have memories of him as a child. And my relationship with him has been formed really just in the last few years, connecting with him by going and riding the Ho Chi Mihn Trail, the film that we talked about, Blood Road, and going to look for the place where he was shot down. And a big chunk of my life was, you know, he wasn't really a part of my life. And it was kind of interesting because people would say to me, oh, you know, I'm so sorry you're growing up without a dad and you must be so sad. And because I didn't have my own memories of him, it was hard to mourn something I didn't know or to miss something that wasn't in my experience. And so it was almost like I felt guilty, you know, not being more sad, but I didn't know him. And in my adult life, I've gotten to know him, which has been really special. And through stories from my family and eventually now with Blood Road, going and physically standing in the place where he died and feeling his presence there. And now the happy, exciting part of it is I feel like I do have a relationship with my dad now. I feel like I know him more and I can recognize the parts of me that were in him. And it's been an amazing journey and really special that my career as a cyclist, as an endurance athlete, was the thing that led me to connect to him so many years later, you know, 45 years later.
So the curiousness in me asked the question. He died when you were 3.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Vietnam, and his plane goes down, right? Shot down, and so years later, and this is the movie I saw a year and a half ago. It's called Blood Road. Excellent, by the way.
Emmy Award winning
Blood Road.
That just happened recently.
And so the setup of this essentially is this journey for you to ride from Laos, right?
From Hanoi down to Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. So it was a 1,200-mile ride, essentially putting together the most historically accurate route that we could of the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
And you rode with...
I rode with a Vietnamese mountain biker, Huyen.
So where do the dots connect in terms of, you know, you don't really have a relationship with your dad in all these years, and obviously you grew up as a you know, little kid to a teenager to adult life, and then where it kicks in where I want to go and I want to reconnect with my dad,
mm-hmm.
and where then this movie, this genesis of this whole thing comes out of. How did that all happen?
It's an interesting question, and I can look back now in hindsight. It's 2020, and I honestly feel like my whole career has been leading me to that tree in the jungles in Laos, and that the pieces have been put together. But really, what was happening is, you know, after Leadville, after 24-hour mountain bike racing, winning all those things, my riding started to morph into wanting to explore more on my bike and do more expedition type riding, especially living here in Idaho and doing a little less traditional racing and more bike packing, exploring, using the bike as a tool for that. And really it was Red Bull is such a unique partner. I've been with them almost 20 years now. And what they do every year, they basically push an athlete. They're like, well, what do you want to do? Come to us with ideas. So instead of saying, you need to do this race, this race, this race, they've actually pushed me to, you know, be creative. And so it's, that time of year I'm sitting here thinking, well, what could I do? What expedition could I do? What famous trails are there in the world? And it just kind of like this light bulb went off that, the Ho Chi Mihn Trail has anyone ridden it? So first it was this appeal of doing a really cool bike expedition. And, the adventurer in me was like, wow, I wonder if it's ever been done. I start digging into maps. And obviously the secondary part is, well, we have these map coordinates from all of these military documents. I wonder what's there. And it was just this curiosity of, I want to see what's at this coordinate on this map in this place. And it really was unique how my career and a personal story came together. Because it wasn't like all growing up, I was like, I need to find my dad. I need to find my dad.
Right.
It wasn't, it was just sort of the timing all came together. So I pitched to Red Bull. I had this idea for an expedition, and I knew I would need help with just trying to piece together the maps, the border crossings, because it goes through 3 countries. It's 1,200 miles. And I asked for their help. And the first 2 times I pitched it, the project didn't get accepted. The third time I went back to the drawing board, packaged the story better. And, the third time I got an approval, and it wasn't set out to be a film at first, but as we started getting into the story of my dad's letters and finding all these, musical recordings my mom had and finding people who served with my dad, the story started getting so much deeper that Red Bull decided they needed to try to document this story. And it was a real stretch for them too. I mean, a typical Red Bull film doesn't tackle these kind of personal stories. And so for Red Bull Media House, it was a challenge for them too, to be like, can we, one, to make endurance riding look interesting, and can you tell this deeply personal story? And it's the first film that they totally produced in-house, did everything themselves. But for me, I wasn't set out, I want to make a movie. I wanted to do this ride and I needed their help. And it came together and they documented it. And what was pretty crazy, I mean, we had a super small crew on motorcycles, and I don't remember them being, I obviously remember them being there, but it was still, I was very much in my own head and in my own personal space. I wasn't sort of acting for the film or anything like that. And the fact that they were able to capture, those moments in one take. I mean, you can't go back and discover the place and do a retake of that.
Right. Right.
It was really, I met Huen for the first time, my writing partner on camera. You're seeing all that in the film really as it did unfold. And it's pretty unique to be able to capture that.
Well, it was powerful. There was a number of things that to me really stood out. First of all, just the way they filmed it. Obviously you're in the jungle and it's just beautiful. Just from the elevated shots. I don't know if that was a drone or what that was, but from the ground and from above, it was really beautiful. That was one. 2 is, and this is just when you have somebody like me that has their head in the sand. I've been over to Asia, but I've not been to those countries. Mm-hmm. And what you were showing is this. There are planes and there's bombs and all kinds of stuff still just laying on the ground in these villages, right? It's
still there. All of the war scrap is either repurposed or reused and, built into their homes.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then the third part to me was about this relationship that you had with this other writer, this Vietnamese gal that at one time we're enemies, and now you're coming together, and their people shot your dad down, and so it was very emotional, powerful, just in that dynamic. Let alone what your end goal was trying to, which was trying to locate, where your dad actually went down.
Yeah, and Huen's contribution, that was really unexpected for me. You can imagine me going to do the biggest expedition of my life. I'm a very experienced athlete. I've done multi-day expeditions before. Normally, I get to choose my teammates, and I know them intimately. We speak the same language. Yeah. We have similar experience, and so this was part of the creative decision, to ride with someone from Vietnam, which is great. But I didn't know her, and her racing. When she was racing full on, she was doing cross country. So she was racing an hour and a half. She'd never done a multi-day expedition. She'd never used a camelback. She'd never set up a tent. She'd never, and I'm kind of like, how is this going to go? And I was extremely focused on the end goal. So ultimately, I was going to do the ride no matter what. And I'm over there meeting a teammate, kind of sizing her up and going, okay, I'm meeting this person for the first time, and we can't really communicate. We can say hi, we can talk like that, but we can't get really deep. I can ask her if she's okay. Does she need food?
Yeah.
But that's about as deep as we can go. And what ended up being really amazing, I think it was good for me. I mean, as you said, my nickname's the Queen of Pain. I am an extremely focused person. I set my mind on something and I'm going to get it. And having to slow down and wait for her and take care of her on the trail, it really did force me to take the blinders off. And if I had done the ride Rebecca pace, it would have been a very different experience, And so I felt like what I was teaching her on the physical end, that she could go multi-days. I mean, she really surprised me. She'd get up every morning and do it again. And I think what I was teaching her about her physical strength, she was helping teach me emotionally about looking around and looking into myself. And I think if I had arrived at that tree and that map location on my own without sort of the all that time, those weeks ahead with her, I don't think I would have been as open emotionally to sort of receive what was waiting on the trail for me. And she became one of the best parts of the trip. And in the front end, I thought she was going to be, a real anchor or a real problem for the trip. And
she was a gift.
She was an incredible gift and really opened my eyes and, taught me so much on the trail. And I'm really grateful that, and I even thank her at the end of the film. I say, thank you for teaching me how to slow down. And, I was worried. I was worried when I came back that competitive spirit might be gone. Like, did this trip end all of my competitive spirit of doing things? And it hasn't, which is really great. But it helped me see that other side of me, which I believe is my dad. My mom is very driven, entrepreneur, had to raise 2 kids on her own. And that part of me is very developed because it was right in front of me all the time. The other softer side, musician, part is my dad, and that part hasn't been as developed. And it's been great since riding Blood Road is I'm getting to know that part of me. And that's where I said getting to know my dad a little bit by slowing down and taking a breather and having the hard days but the easy days too.
Yeah, well, Miss Darcy over here is the one that's telling me the same thing. I tend to go a little fast too and not smell the roses. And it's really key in terms of taking it in and really noticing life's gifts and blessings that are around you so that you can appreciate them. And in a lot of ways, it can help you fuel yourself and power forward in wonderful ways that you didn't know.
Absolutely.
So tell me then on the end of that, when you finally located it, was it a precise location?
Mm-hmm. It was a map coordinate from the Air Force, from the government, map coordinates. And my dad was shot down in 1972, and the site had been excavated twice by our government, by the U.S. government, JPAC. They go in there, and they're still looking for people. There's still 800-something missing from the Vietnam War. Yeah. His remains weren't actually found until 2007. So he was missing in action. We didn't know until 2007 that he had died in that plane crash. And they never found any remains from his co-pilot, Carter Howell. So, and they found 2 teeth of my dad's. And what's really interesting kind of twist to the story is my sister is a periodontist, and she was able to, she's in the Air Force. She's a general in the Air Force. She followed in his footsteps, but she was able to actually go and identify the teeth and look at the dental records, which was a really interesting connection for her.
Incredible. What was that moment like when you landed on that coordinate?
Well, I would tell everyone should see the film, but
I've seen the film. If you don't, I'm teeing that up, having seen the film, and I know the answer. And if we want to tease that, that's fine too.
For me, it's fine. I'm happy to talk about it. It was a extremely happy moment, and I think I touched on it a little bit. I felt relief. I felt a huge amount of relief that I could feel his presence for the first time in my life. You know, they had a ceremony at Arlington in 2007 after they found the teeth, and I went, and to me, I didn't feel my dad there. That wasn't a way to connect with him. But when I went to that tree, I mean, it felt alive, and I just wanted to sit there and hang out. It just felt like I was home.
So many amazing things have come out of that movie, right? For you. I mean,
Absolutely. It changed my life.
You got to travel the country. I mean, I'm talking about in addition to what we just talked about, actually being on the Ho Chi Mihn Trail, the 1,200 miles, and filming and going through Red Bull and getting, up and over that hump, getting it produced. Now it's, I mean, going around and doing these little showings throughout the country where then you get up afterwards and people ask you questions and you get to engage. Something else that I was going to ask you about, because I saw it on your website and I thought it was fascinating, and then you actually show up with two of them. And this is a blessing. Again, another thing that's come out of this with your relationship with Vietnam. Tell me more about this really cool jewelry I'm holding.
Yeah, so my biggest surprise after riding the Ho Chi Minh Trail was, and I think a lot of people when they see the film, I had no idea there was so many bombs still left 50 years later. Unexploded ordnance, that Laos is the most bombed country in the world. And there are children there that they've never known life without, cluster bombs in their yard. And because it's a farming community and people die every year from the bombs and the craters that are still there. And so I came home really feeling like my dad brought me there to show me that, and to he talks about in his letters, he didn't want to be bombing people,
Yeah.
He had moral conflict with that. And I do believe he brought me there to show me, hey, this problem is still here. And my bike I've been able to use my bike as a tool to actually clean up some of the bombs in Laos in his name. And the collaboration with this company, Article 22, those bracelets I brought you, so that's war aluminum. I found this company when I came home. I started digging in, like, I've got to do something about this issue. And so I take mountain bike trips back to Laos. I'm going in a week. I go back. And we ride the Ho Chi Minh Trail and fundraise to clean up bombs in my dad's name. The Blood Road Film Tour has been fundraising for that, and also this collaboration with the Article 22 jewelry. And that is war scrap that is cleared by Mines Advisory Group. It's a nonprofit that goes to war-torn countries and cleans up. But these are, interestingly enough, the aluminum is handcrafted and in kilns in a very small village in Laos, made by Lao artisans and formed into jewelry and brought to the U.S., engraved, and I sell the bracelets, and each bracelet sale goes back to clean up 12.5 square meters of land in Laos. So it's this nice circle of taking something that, like a bomb that is a killing weapon, and turning it into a piece of jewelry. And they're all engraved with the words "Be Good," which is how my dad signed his letters home from the Vietnam War. And that's now the name of my foundation. And so it really is.
All ties together.
It does tie together. And it feels really great to be able to use my bike, to create change and to really do what I believe he asked me to go and do something about this.
Well, he'd be super proud of you.
Thank you.
Really, seriously. And you can get these bracelets at RebeccaRusch.com. We will put those in the show notes. And
Thanks.
Going back to the movie, where can people find that movie?
Bloodroadfilm.com has or my website have all the ways you can watch. So it's on iTunes, it's on Amazon Prime. You can host your own screening. You can buy a DVD.
I'm going to host my own screening tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And I have what's been another really cool gift. Like you said, I've been going to military bases. I've been able to show the film, as fundraisers for a lot of different groups, whether it's school kids or veterans groups, and it's been an amazing healing tool for, the Vietnam War, people didn't talk about it. And it's just now people are starting to talk about it. And I think that that's the key to healing is to talk, to hug. I can't tell you how many hugs I've given, on these film tours. Because even if you don't have a connection to the Vietnam War, everyone has a father and a mother, and everybody's experienced loss. And so I feel really good about the fact that the film is this thing that brings people together, and
No,
It
I
is
love
a
that.
hopeful movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, my dad was in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
He's no longer here with us, so I relate to a lot of the things you're talking about. The other thing that's really cool about this is that you, in addition to going back to Laos, you have turned it into a adventure travel, if that's what you want to call it, for
Yeah.
others to come along,
Yeah.
with you, right?
So I take small groups back. This will be my third one, MTB Lao, and each group is about 15 people,
Yeah.
hand selected. They've got to apply, and
Well, this is my
talk to
verbal
me.
application right
Yeah,
here.
you want to apply? So I do
I'm
it
in.
winter every year, once a year. I go back and I take a small group back, and
Yeah.
we ride sections of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. We see a lot of the places you saw in the film. We stay with a village. We see a mines advisory group field team and see how the bombs are cleared and detonated, and then we raise funds and awareness to clean up more bombs. So it's this amazing expedition. I mean, we're going through villages where people have never been, other than my group, once a
Yeah.
year or so. We see them back again, and there aren't any cars there aren't any facilities, and to get off the beaten track like that is really special and amazing. And I will say, Laos is the most bomb country in the world, but it's incredibly the friendliest country in the world. I've never met people that are so open and welcome you into their house, and especially when you consider our history and consider, the painful history that we've had with this country. They're just, come on in to my house and have a meal with us, and it's really special.
Well, the whole thing is special. You're special too. So what's next for you? I mean, beyond you're going to Laos, I know that, but beyond that, you've done a movie, you've got this book I'm looking at, Rush to Glory. You've got so many things that you've accomplished, right? And as you look forward, I know you've got your big race here in Rebecca's Private Idaho that is going to come around probably in the summertime, right?
Yeah, it's Labor Day weekend, so end of summer.
End of summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, there's a lot of planning there. But what else do you have? Do you have like crazy race? You're going to, fly to Mars or something on your bike? Or what are you going to do?
There's a lot of tentacles to my business right now, and this is where I could probably get some entrepreneurial advice from you. But my biggest problem is I want to do everything. And there's so many. I have another book in my head, for sure. And I'm doing more events. I'm launching Rusch Academy training events here, endurance cycling events, like adult summer camp on a bike.
I love that.
Private Idaho. But my own cycling, I'm not willing to let go of that because it's part of me. People are asking, when do you retire? It's like, well, never. Yeah. This is what I do.
Same answer here.
Yeah, but where my cycling is evolving to is really wanting to do more expedition riding. So kind of launching off of the Ho Chi Mihn Trail I'm looking at some of the other famous trails in the world, like the Silk Road or Lewis and Clark Trail, and really trying to do these amazing expeditions, but also tell the story along the way of the history and the current issues and what's going on. And so I really am wanting to explore on my bike in that way. You do climbing expeditions. It's the same kind of a thing, but more horizontal instead of
no, I get it.
going straight up.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's a natural progression for you and really leveraging your accomplishments of the past, and you have built a name out there. A lot of people in the biking world in particular know who you are, and would love to be a part of some of the things that you're doing, and at the same time being able to raise funds towards these wonderful causes. It's great. It's a win-win for everybody.
Thanks. I'm trying to combine bringing people into my world and sharing, which is I do believe the more you give, the more you get. But there's also this solo expedition part of me that needs to go escape and be alone and be in my own head, in my own space. So trying to combine my own big bike expeditions with also all these other things like events and training camps and all that. It's a balance. It's a very delicate balance, but it is. I feel like I'm sort of this loner, like living. It's kind of, Idaho is representative of me in some ways, in that you can get into these wide open alone spaces, but there's also this really special sense of community. And so I kind of need both. I need the escape into the wilderness and the sense of community. So I feel like my business is sort of taking shape in that way.
Well, I think if you're not growing, you're dying, and we all have to evolve, and you certainly have done that in wonderful ways, and you're just on the right course, and it's a wonderful problem to have of trying to figure out all these amazing things that you've got, on your plate, and you've got sponsors and you've got people behind you, rooting you and helping you and supporting you in all the right ways.
Thank you. I think that's a big lesson for me in the last couple years of learning to ask for help, that there are people who want to pitch in, because I'm such an independent, always been super independent, but there are people that are like, I'll help you. I know how to do that. I know how to set up a foundation. And so I'm starting to get better with being like, okay, I want to do this stuff. Who wants to help me? And people are jumping in, which is great.
Yeah, well, that's no shock. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. I mean this sincerely, that I'm so grateful that you're here. You're a bright light for a lot of people to see and follow and emulate. I feel like I'm a better person because you came over here and you shared your story. So thank you.
Well, when does we need to start your bike training. That's the only thing that we have to
Well, we can work on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
we made a deal at the beginning of this podcast, so I'll hold you to that. But I will help you get there too.
Absolutely.
100 miles, you can do it.
I can do it. Absolutely. It's a long way. Well, I've done the Catalina 55.
Okay.
Right. I mean, there was a lot of pain there, but it wasn't a problem.
I mean, the bike is such great training too. And there's fat biking in the winter. Do you have a fat bike?
I don't. I need a fat boy though. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the talk. That was a blast.
Thanks. She is Rebecca Rusch. Bye. Hey, and thank you so much for listening to the Find Your Summit podcast. We are so glad to have you along for this journey. And if you enjoy the show, please tell a friend, share it on iTunes, spread it to the planet. We're looking to broadcast this to every person that is out there because, as you know, everybody has their own summit that they're going after. Okay, if you're looking to follow my journey, you can find that through my social links on markpattisonnfl.com. That's Mark, M-A-R-K, Pattison, P-A-T-T-I-S-O-N, NFL.com. So, until the next podcast, just remember, clear eyes, full hearts, and remember, it takes a little more to make a champion, so make it happen. Thank you. Bye.